Wow.
We're here, everyone. We are actually here. Sorry, we're late.
We're okay.
I've been so bad that I've been stuffed in the attic. That's what's going on. Oh, sorry for that. Yeah,
Yes.
there's always a glitch at the last moment.
We made
it
it.
would
We're
be
alive.
RPM if it wasn't there. Thanks to these guys going, are you alive?
Is he
Are
okay?
you
Have
well?
you heard from him? When was the last time you spoke to him?
Oh, we're here. We're here.
Realize.
Oh. So hopefully you can hear us okay, and my echo isn't too bad up in the attic. Well, we've got to talk about water today. We've got so many things to talk about, not just about what's coming out of the tap, but I think we're going to try and get our way through behaviour, where our cats want to drink, what energetically that should involve, what sort of materials we want to give them water in, all the way through to maybe even what additives we can pop in that water as well. So much to deal with. We're going to crack through this because otherwise Judy, the other side of the pond, not you, Julianne, Judy, the other side of the pond, will be kicking me for sort of like overrunning into one of her lives. So what we're going to do is we might have to save a little bit for Patreon. So if you guys want to join us on Patreon, we may just run into that depending on how much time Amaya and Julianne have. Just to see a little bit more, then please do join us over on there. You just have to join us through patreon.com/rawpetmedics. For just a donation, you can then join in and look at all of the information we put up over there. But for now, where should we start? Should we start with it coming out the tap or out of the water? But I think.
Well, I was going to say, why don't we start with like placement of it? Because if we talk about placement of it, then we can talk about what's, then what you put in it. So
okay, go for that. Let's do that. Let's do that.
Okay, so I'm going to kick us off. So we need to think about when cats would drink in the wild. They won't drink from a water source. So if they they are hunters, they are predators. If they make a kill, even the big cats, lions and tigers, they won't drink from a water source next to a kill because it could be contaminated with bacteria. So, and obviously with their heightened sense of smell, they can smell if something's a little bit funky or a little bit off. So when we have what we, for like man-made, we've got those horrid 2-portion plastic bowls that you're meant to put food in one and water in the other. Yeah. So my cat, like when I was younger, that's what our cats had until I knew better, and I was like, no. So first of all, like we'll talk about the container that you have it in just a second, but I would encourage everybody when it comes to water, one of the most simple things you can do is look at where your placement of the bowls are. So don't put it next to their food, next to their plate. Obviously not next to a litter tray. That kind of goes without saying. Okay, so have a think about where you've got your water bowls. So we've got 2 in our house. One is on the fireplace on the corner of the hearth, which is like as the part of the front room, and the second one is upstairs on the landing. So they get refreshed regularly. We'll talk about obviously what's in them when I hand over to you guys in terms of what's in the water. Go on.
So I have one moment for that. So the thing that I always do and advise clients for is also think about, cats love to see the meniscus. They love to see the reflection off the surface of the water. And actually, I often will say to people, the great thing to do is to find appropriate dishes. We're going to talk a bit more about that in a moment. But put them on windowsills. Okay, put them, somewhere that they can perch up off the floor. So that they've got that access. I think that makes a big difference to many cats. How many people say, you know what, I put water everywhere for them. What ends up happening is my cat drinks out of the glass that I put beside the bed. That's the thing to look out for. So just be aware of, where you're putting your water. And great, Heather, absolutely agree. Some of those water fountains are also another thing to look out for, because some cats love to drink from the tap or from running water. It's almost like that, where would you drink from as a human? a mountain stream that's got a waterfall coming out of it, or a lake that's sort of sitting down in the valley that's probably collected everything on its journey there, you're going to go for that, fresh water coming out of a water sport, fall or spring. So that those were the only bits I would add to. I love the putting it away from food, absolutely. But if you're thinking landing and it's going to be on the floor, just see if you've got a windowsill that your cats can get to. Obviously, older arthritic cats, you're going to have to accommodate them. But that's what I would add. So thanks, Julianne, for letting me interject.
Yeah,
I'll let you get back to your flow.
It's fine.
I'm gonna say something else about the water fountains. The only problem that I usually have with those is the material, because you can find now we can find very cheap ones everywhere, and we have to be a little bit careful of the material that it's made of, even if it's ceramic, because it's still I've tried. I bought like several different fountains, and I found an issue with many of them. I don't know if it was my cats or what, but I found that sometimes it was hard to keep it as clean as possible, than the filters, than the material which is made. So make sure to make a really good decision when you're choosing, not because of the pricing, but also because of the material that you have in the filter system that it has. And it is a really good source if your cat, especially if your cat needs to drink a lot of water. My cats don't drink too much water because they are well fed, and they actually, I just put small amounts of water different places, because I don't want to throw any water. They actually don't take too much. So this is something else to consider if choosing whatever you want from water source.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that. We do get a lot of queries, oh, my cat suddenly stopped drinking. Yeah, because we've just moved you to raw, and they're managing to get all of that moisture. They're desert creatures in many, many cases, and this is the thing. They are designed for their kidneys really to hold on to lots of water into the body. They don't need to put through. Now, there's certain diseases we might want to increase their water output, to stop them getting bladder infections and stuff like that. But ultimately, for the majority, when they move to raw, massively drop their water intake. Don't get alarmed by that. Don't suddenly think that what you've done with the water dishes is putting them off drinking, if that's the case, if you've moved to fresh from kibble. But Julianne, I'm going to let you carry on. I interrupted, and
No, it's fine. I know you always, whatever I say, you're always like bringing the heights, and it is a really good reminder, because there are a lot of cats that that will benefit from their food at a height, like you said, water at a height, beds at a height, and I think, like you said, the pint glass, drinking from the pint glass is a really great example of having it kind of elevated. I think for me, like with Leo being a hideaway cat, everything needs to be ground level for him, so that he can then go and, if necessary, if he's drinking, go and hide in a nice dark spot. But actually, interestingly, baby Max, who eats at a height, because he eats on a little island space that we've created, drinks from my pint glass. So I do think that's fascinating. It's given me food
I love
for
this.
thought.
I love this, Julianne. So I took it to a glass on the bedside table. Okay. And immediately I've now got an idea of the sort of drinker you are, because you're talking about pints. It's like
of water. Good God, no, I can't drink beer. It's too bitter. Oh, no. No, pints of water, Brendan.
I was thinking more pints of gin, but anyway, that's another matter.
I wasn't thinking about beer.
Jesus, pint of gin. People, they make me out to be this reprobate, and it's really not the truth.
I don't drink beer. It's not good.
That's right.
Anyway, so I think it's a good point about the heights in terms of water sources. And going back to what Amaya said about the water fountains, we need to be really mindful, because the water's flowing. That doesn't mean that the water fountain is like self-cleaning. We need to be really, really aware, like, it needs to be a regular activity to be cleaning, like you said, those filters, replacing the filters, cleaning the pump, and you'd be surprised just how quickly you can get a buildup of mold or the kind of, funky bright green bacteria, the algae and things that can live in there. So, it is really important if you are using water fountains to bring in that regular cleaning. I mean, it kind of goes without saying, but I think sometimes it might be pushed in a corner. I'm thinking of a client, water fountain in the corner of the bedroom, corner of the dining room, just kept topping up with water, and it's kind of like the fluff around it. You think, God, when was that last moved or cleaned or kind of, supported in terms of health and safety? So, if you are using them, it's important to clean them. But from a behavior perspective, separate places.
Yes.
I would say with those, some of them have carbon filters in, and when we talk about additions, you just got to be mindful of that, okay? But they'll have carbon filters in, but those carbon filters have to be replaced. You can't just leave the one in that you bought it with, okay, and expect it to still be working 10 years later, okay, or even 10 months later.
Sorry, that's
all right.
10 years is a lot. Okay.
So do remember, yes, I know that they do have carbon filters in quite a lot of them, but they need replacing, and yes, you still need to clean them, as Julianne said quite rightly. But have a look at that.
Look at Beth B's comment. Can I just highlight that? She said, for years, I thought my bedside glass of water evaporated a bit overnight until 5 years later, I heard my cat lapping the water. I'd been downing the remaining water when I got up. Oh, my love.
I love it.
We've all done that.
We love to share our microbiomes. Okay, that's what it's all about. Okay, and we should be sharing with our pets.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah,
there comes a point.
And then you don't have only the dirt that the proper fountain will get. You can also have a cat that likes to put things in the water fountain, so that makes it more flavory. And it was impossible. It was impossible to keep that thing clean. I mean, even the filter within the month that probably usually go, it was impossible to keep it clean. So it is a challenge to find a good fountain, and it is not always about the pricing or the material, because I bought ceramic, I bought different sorts of plastic, metallic, and all of them, and I had issue with all of them because I have a cat that likes to put things into the water fountain.
Nice.
So no more water fountains for me.
They like to clean the mouse off before they eat it. It's like,
put it out.
Yeah.
Right.
A little bit of meat. Let's see what happens.
That's when the cat needs a little sink so it can clean its mouse, okay? And then it has a little water bowl over there. So this is really ties into Heather. Thanks, Heather. With regards to how far would you say that water bowl needs to be from their food when you're going to place it? Julianne, what would you be doing for that? I mean, how far do you do? Is it either end of the windowsill? Is it, that windowsill is just for water and the food is totally in the other room?
Another room.
Give us an idea.
Just like another room. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So it's really find another place and somewhere that's really good,
what else is
a good height.
It turned
Washing
out
mice. That's what they're for.
It turned out to be another thing, not a water source. It's a place for it.
It's when they do that. That's the thing. When you see a cat sort of flicking it out. I've got a wonderful. So my Labrador Pippa. She, bless her, she loves, the green turtles, which are, for sand pits and things like that you can get. And so in the summertime, we fill that up with water, not with sand. So she just loves to get in that and dig it out. And, she gets so enthusiastic that sometimes she'll do the same. So we have a fairly large water bowl for the dogs in the kitchen. And you suddenly find that she's doing this. And then you suddenly see Spider sort of looking at that and then looking at her water bowl on the windowsill and going, what's the fascination?
I don't get it.
Is this working?
What are you doing? What does that make? What does that do to the water? It's amazing how they learn off each other. But anyway.
So you guys, so
Just
what
thought I'd bring that little
about
story.
what about? So we've talked about where we should put them. So let's talk about like water quality. I know we've had a good load of comments on the post. So talk a bit first of all about like boiled water. Tell us a bit about that, Brendan.
Yeah, so a lot of people think of boiling water as, well, it's going to cleanse it. It's going to, now certainly it's going to sterilize it. It may reduce bacteria if you've got, if you're going out to your local fishing lake and dipping in the pan in order to, give your fresh water to the cats, then, you're going to boil that because there may be loads of other stuff in there. Okay, well, that's not great because if there's chemical contamination, you're evaporating the water off, you're concentrating any chemicals. So if you've got fluoride added in, okay, you're going to be concentrating that within that water. If you've got heavy metal contamination of that water, you're going to be concentrating that in the water. So when it cools down, all you're doing is giving that. So you really need to work a way of filtering that. That's where these carbon filters come in. That's where the ceramic filters come in. So sterilizing the water, boiling it, only works if you've got a steamer and you're condensing out the steam that comes off that boiling water. And that condensate is the bit that's then effectively purified. Okay, so the actual pan of boiling water is just concentrating the toxins.
Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully that's clear. The other thing many people will say, oh, therefore I use bottled water. Now, in that, there's a whole other gambit, as in for your own health. Everybody who's listening, it's really, really important that you think about how you're buying your bottled water. If that isn't, just look on the label. Most of those bottles should be now BPA and phthalate free. Okay, now some of the cheaper ones are not. It won't even say it on the bottle because they don't want you to know. I love the fact that you can buy mountains fresh water in Spain when you go on holiday. But then you think, how long has it been in that cheap plastic bottle in the heat, on the shelf of that, superstore or whatever, and then you take it away and you're drinking out of that. That is no longer mountain fresh water. Okay, it's going to have all of the plastics leached into it. So I definitely would say, think very careful. If it's glass bottled, better. Okay, definitely. If it states, because they've thought about it, that it's BPA phthalate-free plastics, great. Okay, it's not great for the environment necessarily unless you're recycling that plastic all of the time properly. But you just got to be bearing those factors in mind. Any other sort of waters that you guys choose? Are you advocating any particular brand of water, like Perrier for your little cats? What's going on?
Well, Mallorca is not the best place to get water. It's really hard. It has like too much of flavor of chloride. And worst after the pandemic is actually taste. You can actually taste it. It's awful. You cannot
taste the chlorine almost.
Yes, it smells. It's awful. And the thing is that it's only, well, we use it for cooking. That's it. But then it's not even good for that because of what you said about the boiling. But anyway, we have an issue here because of then we have a lot of plastic residue that actually the last time I read something about it, it says that only in the summer Mallorca produces like 4 tons of plastic due to they buy everything in plastic bottles because there is no other options. I mean, for the amount of water that you're going to ingest, there's nothing in glass that it could hold that. You have to buy how many glasses of bottles in the summer, right? So the problem that we have is that even I used to use carbon filters, the naturals one, the bamboo ones, you know, and those really worked in Madrid. It was really good that the water in Madrid has other chemicals, but it was a softer kind of water. And for this type of water, it's not enough. I mean, I still can taste. You can still have the taste of it. So I'm combining everything I can until I find a place where I can buy BPA free. I'm actually talking now to a company to see if I can get BPA 25 little bottles and get there somehow. But it is quite a challenge for some people in different places of the world. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, if any of you guys listening have a company, a particular brand of water that you use, that you know that it's BPA phthalate free, or that you particularly think that your cat loves, please put it in the comments. It'd be great to hear from you. If you're using something on the States side as well, because I know in the States you can, a lot of people buy their water, in bottles rather than necessarily just from the tap. So if you've got a particular state or county that you're in the States that has particular water policies for your drinking water, and you're really proud of it, or you want to dish them for being really bad, please do pop it in the comments, because it'd be great to hear from you. I mean, the UK, we're sort of in that scenario now, aren't we, where they've said, oh look, we've put fluoride in your water for however long, which is strengthening your teeth, and you should all be grateful, and all the rest of it. What's your thoughts? Where do you come on that little line, Julianne? What's your take?
Yeah, water for me, like it's something I've learned more and more about, for myself, for the boys. And, we've gone through stages. We did bottled water, tap water, boiled water, and now we're at filtered water. So now I'm actually currently the last 2 weeks trialing a different filter company who have they've done a lot with their packaging, and, you have a reusable filter and you replace the insides. And they do 2 options. So one has got added magnesium. So if you do a lot of sport and things, it's supposed to help your body. The other one is about filtering out like the nasties, the fluoride and things in our tap water. So I'm using both. So I'm trialing them because I drink a lot of squash, I drink a lot of water. So I like it very much like Amaya. Like I can taste it. If I go to my mum's house, God bless her, and she gives me tap water, I'm okay, thanks. Like I'll just sit here dehydrated. Like it's just nasty. It's nasty.
Just
like
bring the gin.
Yeah.
That's what the gin's for, isn't it?
A pint. Yeah,
it sterilizes the water and then just takes the flavor out.
And my liver.
It cleanses the liver.
It's really surprising, like how much you can taste it and the difference in it. So like I said, with the boys, we've got the 2 bowls, excuse me, one's upstairs, one's downstairs, one's got one filtered water, one's got the other. And then I catch baby Max trying to drink out of the goddamn awful bird bath in the middle of the garden. So like, what's the goddamn point?
Oh, but right? That's a really good point. That's a really good point, because somebody has said, in this comment, thank you, Kirsten, about that. Do you want to have a little chat about that? Do you find that a lot?
We have. I mean, I have some people here that actually collect rainwater when it rains.
Stop bragging. Stop bragging. Just because the UK's had about 3 months of constant rain now, it's like
you can collect rainwater, but he actually does that, and then he filters it anyway. He puts a carbon filter anyway. So I don't know. I don't have that experience because I haven't seen too much rain to talk about it.
So
but
we're really fortunate. I would definitely say, hands down, for people that have problems with their cats drinking, yes, we do get a lot of chlorination and a bit of fluoride added, and that really, you can smell it. If you freshly poured it out of the tap, you can smell it on the water. And sometimes leaving it to effectively air, some of that smell will come off to us, but they're so much more sensitive. And so you've just got to bear that in mind. So I often will say to people, actually, do you see your cat drinking outside from puddles and bird baths and things like that? And actually collecting rainwater, sticking a pan outside up in Yorkshire is actually a really good way of getting enough drinking water for raw-fed cats for the week. So you can just constantly do that. So literally sticking a clean pan out to collect it, not even waiting for a downpipe or trying to collect it off the greenhouse or whatever, but literally just sticking a pan out usually gives you enough to put in that water bowl. So there are going to be dry moments when it's not so easy, and I would definitely say if you're going to use a water butt, remember a lot of those are plastic, and they certainly won't be thinking about whether it's BPA free or whatever. So you just got to bear that in mind. So you are back to filtering it. Okay, so there are some great filter systems out there we'll talk about in a moment. But if you're collecting, in a nice oak water butt and you're putting your dish in and the cat's loving it and they love that flavor, absolutely no problem. If they're drinking from the bird bath, honestly, some people get overly concerned about, well, that bird might be carrying Giardia and X, Y, and Z. Well, honestly, you've just got to bear that in mind when are you cleaning that bird bath often enough?
And that's the thing, right? So when I saw baby Max doing it, I was like, and stopped him doing it, because I was like, my bird bath, every couple of months, like, it gets a really horrid red residue in it, so it's like, and for me, there's an element of self-selection here, right? Because he's going to that water, so what is it in that water? And I don't know the answer to this, but if we think about when they're out in the wild, they can use their sense of smell to look at what minerals or added, what they need for their body. So what is it about that particular water with I don't know what it's made of,
the red stuff?
Yeah. The bird bath.
So it's usually an algal type that's causing the red growth.
Right. I'll send you pictures, Brendan. You can tell me.
Well, I'll need a microscope, so you'll need to send me a sample.
Okay. Either way, it's gross, but every now and again, I'm like, right, I need to go and clean the bird bath. But still, it's rainwater. I'm sure that there is gross things in it. But if baby Max wasn't in the back garden, if I don't see him do it, I can't stop it, right?
So the biggest concerns I would have would be if you're in an industrial area. So if you're in the center of London, the center of New York, the Chicago manufacturing downtown, whatever, okay, then if you can see plumes and smokestacks near you kicking out horrible stuff, collecting rainwater has an issue. Because obviously it's going to dissolve all of that stuff in the rain, and then you're collecting it. So you're going to need to filter that even. If you're nowhere near that and that, you're in the middle of nowhere collecting rainwater,
beautiful.
Of course. Yeah, all right. Yeah, stop showing off just because
I just need rain. I would have the other things as
Can
well.
you see the sea from there? Can you see the sea?
You're absolutely right. It's all about where you are, what's going on in your environment, and like Amaya said, sometimes you've got to do the best you can with what you've got, right? You may not be.
Oh, she pressed the wrong button. Anyway.
Well, continuing to what she was saying, that yes, I mean, if here we had a little bit more rain, it would be amazing, because the quality of air and everything is much better than what we had in Madrid. So it would be amazing. But I'm looking for different sources, because I wanted to show that not everything can be perfect, but at least be mindful to find different ways to get good water, because after all, the water, it's like 70% of our bodies, and then it is important. It is where all the rest of the fluids, everything runs around in the body. So we have to be mindful of this, even sometimes at the same level or even higher as the food that we eat.
Yeah, and it's so important to do that, to look at that. So let's talk a bit about those filters, and it's great seeing some of you guys talk about different water companies and what they're putting in their water, and where that's at. For the filters, have you got a filter at home, Amaya? Do you have a one under the sink? Do you have one that feeds to a tap, or do you have one that says countertop one? What's the...
Well, the filters that I'm using are the ones of I have the Brita I don't know if you know that one. That it's a simple one. And then I have the carbons that I have to boil every 2 or 3 weeks, and you just have to leave them for 8 hours. Here you have to leave it for 8 hours. Usually it's 2 or 3, but here it's like 8 hours, and you have to clean it. You have to clean it more often, and they don't last as much as you would like because of it's really hard. But my method sometimes is going through the breeder and then the other. So I have to I filter twice. I'm not using anything in the house right now because of the pipes are not good. So even if I wanted to, those filter wouldn't do the job because the house is quite old. So they didn't.
Do you have lead pipes? Do you have lead pipes?
No,
as
no,
well,
no,
or
no. I don't
not
think.
that old.
I hope not.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
certainly in the UK, you've got to be alarmed. If you've got a really lovely old farmhouse that looks like it should be on a chocolate box, you've got to really think about that stuff, because sometimes they haven't been changed yet. But yeah, we're sort of definitely into copper more and more. I think the downside is we're also moving into plastic more and more. And you've got to be aware of that. There's consequences in there. Julianne, thank you. Sorry, I don't know. I think the water company pulled you off, spouting off about that. And so we talked about, being in more rural areas, and some of the people online have agreed. But we sort of moved on to filters. So do you use a filter at home? Do you have one under the sink? Do you have a just jug top like Amaya? What's your
jug
take?
top like Amaya? So like I said, we've got one jug upstairs, one jug downstairs, and 2 different types of filter in one of each. Like I said, from a new company. So I used to be with, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it because I don't want to sound like I'm supporting them, but Brita beforehand.
Oh yeah, I said that. No,
it's already been said. It's already been said.
Great. So we use Brita beforehand, but then for me there is this kind of, even though I take it to the supermarkets to recycle the cartridges, there is still part of me that was like, it's where can I reduce my plastic usage? So now we've got a company called, I think it's Fox, P for Percy,
PHOX.
Yes, and they do 2 different types, which I think like I said, it's quite new for me. So I think it might be, in fact, I don't know. They do 2 different types of filter, and we're trialing them both. So I'm seeing what flavor difference it has for me. I'm seeing which the boys use. But again, they don't drink particularly often. Leo is 95% raw fed. Baby Max has got a bit of everything. So, and he drinks from my pint glass. So it's really, we're still trialing things in this house.
Yeah. For me, it's the same thing.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find Fox. What
they're called. Fox. They're available on phox.com, I believe. So.
And have you? I mean, in my personal experience here, I don't know if this happens across UK as well. I've been having more issues with with stomach acidity, and when you change the source of water, you get improvements alongside other things, of course. But I did notice a change in water, especially in the last couple of years. Have you noticed? Have you seen? I don't know, patients like you, Brendan, that you would say, because I'm now finding more cases of, for example, instead of acidity, the opposite, the hypochlorhydria, and other things. And one of the things that if you change the source of water, usually they are drinking from plastic and near the food, and everything is wrong, right? But usually when you change those things, you can see an improvement really easily.
So I totally agree. I think I do feel that more and more of us, as I've gone through my journey on nutrition and looking at all of those health aspects and holistic health, that actually we mistake a lot of hyperacidity for GERD, so a gastroesophageal reflux disease, which is actually an inflammatory process going on from the stomach and the sort of duodenum, the upper part of the gastrointestinal tract. And we see, therefore, reflux and things like that happening. We assumed that was hyperacidity, but actually it's an inflammatory process. And absolutely, I agree with all of those toxins that we've just, that we've touched on so far today. They will increase inflammation. They will increase problems with GERD, and so yes, it's part of that change, that journey. It's not just nutrition, because obviously high carbs and giving grains with glyphosates on and things like that are going to have issues with GERD. Actually, changing the water so you're not giving them those toxins will also help, with their general how they feel. Remember, there is a bit of a lag phase. A lot of these toxins are also going to be stored in their fats and things like that. So if you then get your cat onto a better diet, or you're improving their health, and they may slim down a little bit so they don't have as much inflammatory fat on them, as they release that inflammatory fat, what happens is that they recirculate all of those aggregated chemicals, and that can make them feel a bit ugh. So you need to give them the support, how can you optimize the liver? Not because the liver has some magical way of taking those atoms and converting them into something different. What it does is it will produce more bile. So getting them to produce more bile to take the fat soluble stuff out. Getting their kidneys, not again, because it doesn't just sort of like pick an atom and take a few electrons off and kick a few protons out and make it a new substance. What it does is, can you get it into a water soluble form, that toxin, for it to urinate out? So it's about how to increase the excretion. For us, we're lucky. We have a third great way, which is to, really sweat it out. Okay.
And
that side of things.
Amaya knows about that.
I can give you a whole talk about that. Yeah.
But from a point, unless you know something that I don't, sweating it out of their little putty paws is a very, very slow process. So let's not go down that route.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stress your cats with saunas. So do have a little look at some other options there. So I would definitely say, look, the toxin thing and gastroesophageal reflux and that acidity is a little bit of a thing that, yes, improving water is so important. So there are some other great companies out. So there's a Water for Life, which I think at the Health Optimization Summit that I went to in June, and they have a 3-filter system. So it's almost, there's the main one. The first filter allows you to take out all of the microbial things within there, any sort of extraneous material. The second filter is very much a carbon filter, okay, and it will just take out some of those horrible, things that we think of that will stick, and you have to just replace those filters, as you've just talked about, Julianne, that you've got to sort of do that to some point. And then the third one, so it does a sort of threefold thing, which means, and the third one takes out some of that horrible chemical stuff. So you're pretty much left. It uses electrodes, I think, within the third filter, which means it sort of takes out all of those really horrible things. And then eventually you are left with what's almost a distilled water. Okay.
Wow.
Now they do have another thing that will sort of repump ozone and other things in there if you particularly want it, or you can use they have a little dropper that you can put in drops of minerals into those. We're going to talk about that in a second. But ultimately, that 3-filter thing makes the filters last longer, so they can last, up to a year before you're having to replace them, which is beneficial in that sense, giving you really good quality water to drink, and your pets, of course. It doesn't just have to be you. So do have a little look at those.
And one thing about this, I heard about certain filters, but the ones that you put in the sink, but I've heard also that they, you waste a lot of water in that process. I don't know if that's because I haven't looked. I'm not putting a filter in my tap water until I just have my own house, not in a rented house so far. But if I have to think about it, I've been looking at certain filters and some of them waste a lot of water. So how do you look for that? Just not to waste too much water in that filtering system.
Oh, look, you're gonna literally put it onto a tap that's for drinking water, is the key thing, so that you're not sort of filtering every last drop that comes through your system. I think is the first, and many do that. And in fact, actually, even Crooker now, which is the tap that does boiling water on, literally on tap, all the way through to carbonated water, but they, it effectively uses a different channel depending on which way you twist it to deliver your drinking water to you. And that's the thing, I guess, is not wasting it. It's not going to go on your mains input, and filter it there. It is going to filter it at point of source, which is why never really drink from bathroom, tap water. It's a case of you drink from the sink, because that's where they've usually plumbed in for your drinking water to be dispensed from. Even though in the UK, many people would say, well, what's the problem with drinking from, tap water is tap water and it should be fine wherever from the cold supply. But it will depend on how much pipework, how much plastic pipework it's gone through or sat in for however long. Okay. Yeah. So that, because certainly the cold water systems and even some of the hot water systems, the issues are if they then sit stable for some time and you're not turning every single tap on in the house, you can get things like Legionnaires building up, with certain bacteria. So it's really important that your drinking water should come from a distinct source within the house. By all means, put the filter on there. And I think they're pretty efficient these days. Some of the old carbon ones, that was a little bit meh. But I think some of the new ones are pretty good.
Okay. I just have to check again.
Maybe that's more technical stuff than I needed to go into. Sorry if I was doing a bit. I'd love to talk a little bit about additions, Amaya, because you said that you actually use some drops into the water. And I'm guessing, Julianne, you've sort of come across useful additions to water as well. So could I just start with you, Amaya, and just ask, what's your favorite go-to drop that you'll put in to augment water for your cats?
Well, do you mean drops? I don't use drops any addition. I use minerals, and also what I use it's different colors in the bottom, but I just let them choose. For example, the ones I normally use, it's quartz, rose quartz as well, and amethyst.
Amethyst, indeed.
Amethyst, yeah. Those are the three top ones, but it depends. Sometimes I can use others. And what I do is, they are previously cleaned, right? And it's not the mineral, not just bought it from the store and put it because that's dirty in many different ways. It's not only the physical dirt, it's the energetical dirt as well. And then what I usually offer is the water with the mineral and another water without it. I also always offered both options because I just let them choose if they need that. But I found that many times I got a cat that didn't drink too much water, and if you put any of these minerals, they are they tend to drink more from the mineral ones. And the same thing happened with different colors. As Julianne will, then I'll let you get into the color.
Yeah, I could see Julianne sort of on the edge. We've just hit on just about everything that switches Julianne on, which is
3 minutes to go.
Everything from Zoo Farmer to crystal and color and the things that adds energy wise to the thing. So Julianne.
Yeah,
I'm not going to speak any longer because you've got some time.
In 3 minutes, thanks. I appreciate that. That's quality time.
Do you know what? I'm going to be really kind, and we're also going to carry that on if you've got time on Patreon afterwards, just so that Judy's not getting really upset. But Julianne, give us at least a roundup for the guys who are watching us on Facebook.
Okay, so what I would say on Facebook are two things. One is you can check the source of your water with your local water board. So for me, for example, I can go onto Southwest Water, put in my postcode, and it'll give me a breakdown of what's in my water. So that might be really helpful for anybody who is dealing with any physical issues with your cat. Take that to your vet so that they know what it is that is making up your water. The other point to say is about, water holds a frequency. Water holds energy. So there was a study by a guy called, I might not pronounce it correctly, Dr. Masaru Emoto, who talks about water and how we can change the chemical component of it. So, you know, with my boys, I at times will hold my hand over their water and feel something, you know, hope, love, peace, whatever. And if you research him, and again, I will be super quick because we've got 2 minutes left, but there are a set of cards that he's got that show you physical images of different emotions and frequencies and vibrations for water. There's studies that you can do. I will talk more about it when we come on to Patreon, but I'll drop his name into the chat on Facebook so people can look into it more. But yes, like Amaya said, crystals, colored bowls, all that kind of jazz, totally my realm.
Yeah. Anything. Yeah.
Wow, you shot through that in no time. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I think, you know, you've actually left yourself a little bit of time to, you know,
say goodbye.
Say goodbye. No. So, what's your key takeaways for people out there, Amaya? Because you know, Julianne's given a really nice roundup from her point of view. For those, we've got somebody else in Mallorca as well. So
yeah, I saw Lucy.
You know, for those guys in warmer climes, okay, what's your sort of takeaway? What's your provision that you would say are key things for your cats?
Well, first of all, not icing the water. That's one of the things I mentioned in the previous one. And then make sure, I mean, if they are fed raw, it's going to be easier to put, they're going to drink less water. So I really like the idea of the windowsill and the reflection. And I also use minerals and colors and those things to promote that the cat will drink water. And then I try to be as mindful as I can with the water intake, making sure that it's always clean, that I use the proper the proper glass bowl and everything as best as you can. And you know, I'm sure I'm going to be changing this in the time being, you know, until I get adapted here. I find the best.
So we're going to say goodbye to everybody in the States, and for everyone else, or if you really want to know more cat stuff and you want to hear a little bit more on energetics and which crystals and which colors do what, you know, then Julianne, have you got, you know, just 5-10 minutes to spend with us on Patreon? If we just go over there, and
Sure.
So if you want to join us on Patreon, please do, and we'd love to see you over there. I'll record it there, and then we'll publish it in about an hour's time. So otherwise, everyone out there, have a great weekend. It's been great to see you.
Yes.
See you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.